Welcome back to Act on Mental Health. If you're new to this channel, I want to introduce myself. My name is Sean Hardy, and I'm a licensed mental health counselor here at Fort Wayne, Indiana. Now, I made this channel for those that want to learn acceptance and commitment therapy. So whether you're in graduate school, a new therapist, or you're just someone who just wants to learn about ACT and how it can be utilized for your own benefit, this is a good channel for you. Now, this is our final episode in a series I've been doing called ACT for Couples. And so far, I've talked mainly to those that are in relationships and how to work through some of the communication issues that tend to come up and how to apply ACT to those situations. I also talked about how ACT applies to singleness and how that's a gift, even though it may seem like a thorn at times. Today, I'm going to talk to the therapist, and we're going to talk about how to apply RFT and ACT to our couples' work. And so I'm hoping by the end of this video that you better understand some of the core problems that couples come into therapy for, how to better understand RFT principles and ACT processes, and how to apply those and integrate those into your couple's work. Now, I want to bring your attention to the description below. There's going to be some free resources there. So some of the exercises that I recommend, and they're there for you to use on your own or use in your therapy work. If you like what you're watching and you find it valuable, I recommend hitting the like button, the subscribe button, and that'll let this channel get to those that want to learn ACT like you and me. I had a client recently that graduated high school, and we were working on some issues that were important to him during the intake. And 9 sessions in, he kind of brings out the real issue that he wanted to work on. And he kind of lamented to me that he didn't find the therapy as helpful because there was really another issue that he was wanting to work on. Now, we talked through that, and I think had a really good conversation, and it opened my eyes as a therapist to say, I need to take some time to better assess the problem before I just go to work on solving what I think is the problem. And as a new therapist, we're all learning, as we're doing therapy, and we can't always get it right. But it really did open my eyes to the awareness that we need to understand the problems in relationships, especially for couples work. Now, to better understand these problems from an ACT perspective, we need to look at the aim of ACT, which is to create psychological flexibility. And that goes for really all clients' problems. We want them to be able to have flexibility, to be defused, to accept their inner pain, and to move towards their values with committed action. So if the aim is psychological flexibility, then that really sheds light on what the core problem is. And that is psychological rigidity. Now, what is psychological rigidity? This refers to the inflexible patterns of behavior that couples fall into, and is driven by avoidance of discomfort or pain and rigid adherence to unhelpful thoughts and beliefs and feelings. Now, according to the book ACT and RFT in Relationships, psychological rigidity can manifest in various ways, such as avoidance of difficult conversations, pleasing behaviors to avoid conflict, or clinging to negative self-concepts or self-rules. These behaviors are often rooted in relational schemas developed over time through repeated interactions and reinforced by past experiences. Now, we'll get into schemas here in a moment, but let's look at behavioral patterns because these are what are causing a lot of the problems in the relationship and why they're coming to see us. For instance, consider a couple where one partner constantly avoids conflicts to keep the peace. They want to avoid the punishing behavior from their partner. Now, this avoidance, while seemingly beneficial in the short term, often leads to unresolved issues and accumulated resentment. Usually that person bottles it up and then explodes. Relational frame theory helps us understand these patterns by examining the relational frames that individuals use to make sense of their interactions. And it can really be helpful to explore these in couples therapy. Relational frame theory, or RFT, offers a powerful lens to understand how couples develop and maintain relational schemas. RFT posits that our thoughts, memories, and feelings are organized into relational networks that influence our behavior. These networks, or relational frames, are established through language and experience, and these are where we get schemas. Now, schemas are very personalized and unique. These are the couple's or the partner's unique learning history, and these are influencing their behavioral patterns that are creating these problems. Now, the following is from another resource that I'll include in the descriptions called Acceptance and Commitment Therapy for Couples. And this book incorporates schemas with ACT processes. Now, these schemas are not merely thoughts, but are deeply ingrained patterns that shape how partners interact with each other, and they have some characteristics. First, they are experienced as self-evident truths. Second, they are self-perpetuating and resistant to change. Third, they seem to predict the future, particularly what will happen in your relationship, because they create the illusion that you can see what's coming and prepare accordingly. Fourth, they're usually triggered by stressful events, typically something painful in your relationship, that activate old beliefs about yourself. And finally, they are always accompanied by high levels of emotion. Now that we understand some of the characteristics of what makes a schema and why they're so resistant to change, let's look at 10 schemas for couples that commonly show up. Abandonment instability. This is the belief that your partner is unreliable and that he or she will disconnect or leave. Mistrust abuse. The expectation that your partner will harm, abuse, or neglect you. Emotional deprivation. The expectation that your need for emotional support will not be met. Deprivation of nurturance. The absence of attention. Deprivation of empathy. The absence of understanding. Deprivation of protection. The absence of help. Defectiveness shame. The belief that you are somehow defective, inferior, or unlovable. Social isolation alienation. This is the belief that you don't fit, that you don't belong with anyone. The sense of being alone while together, being unseen and not understood. Dependence. The belief that it would be hard to survive emotionally without your partner, and that you would not be able to take care of yourself outside the relationship. Failure. The belief that you will fail in your relationship in key aspects of life. Entitlement, grandiosity. This is the belief that your partner should provide for your needs and that you have a right to expect his or her constant support. Self-sacrifice subjugation. This is the belief that you must always place your partner's needs over your own, either because your partner's needs are more important or because you fear rejection. And unrelenting standards. This is the belief that you and your partner must meet high standards of performance in life and in the relationship. And if these standards aren't met, you or your partner are wrong and deserve criticism. This is a handout that you can give to the partners and have them read out loud to one another, and they can help to identify what schema seems to fit them. Often there'll be one or two that really resonate with that client. And so I would have them kind of sort that out themselves and then utilize that going forward. Now in RFT, we're not trying to delete the relational frame. There is no delete button with our thoughts and our learning history. It has been learned. You can't simply unlearn it. But you can transform the stimulus function. That's a little bit more of a complex idea, but ACT helps us to alter these relational frames in a way that can lead to new behaviors that can be more adaptive rather than problematic. So we're going to learn a little bit more about that using the ACT processes. One of the strengths of ACT is its emphasis on processes rather than protocols. Every couple is unique, and a one-size-fits-all approach is often ineffective. Instead, ACT focuses on 6 core processes: cognitive diffusion, acceptance, contact with the present moment, self as context, values, and committed action. These processes provide a flexible framework that can be tailored to the specific needs of each couple. So in the context of a couples therapy session, I may start at acceptance of the inner pain that schemas are causing, Or I may start with cognitive diffusion and helping to get some space between thoughts and feelings that seem to influence the behavior. Or I may start with contact with the present moment. So I want to go through each one of these and offer you some helpful insights here as you can utilize these in couples therapy how you wish. Let's start with cognitive diffusion. Now, this helps couples to see their thoughts as just thoughts, not truths that then must dictate their behavior. We want them to have some space so then they can have some flexible choices. To help them do this, I have them download an app called Voice Changer. Then I have them record a judgment about their partner they typically have. And then I have them play back that judgment. And then this app has different modes that change the voice. So you can have it be like a baby voice, or you can have it be, switch genders. You can have it sing to you or play to music. And what it can do is it can help bring some humor and kind of lighten the mood a little bit, but it also has a effect on that thought. So when they have that thought again, they may have just that slight change in experience that can help them get that space that they need. There's a variety of ways you can do cognitive diffusion, but that's one in couples work that may help. Acceptance encourages couples to accept difficult emotions rather than avoiding them. And so when we're talking about schemas, they bring a lot of pain with them. It doesn't feel good when your partner says you're going to leave me like the rest of them did. It doesn't feel good when they don't trust you and they automatically assume the worst. And so it brings on a lot of pain. And so part of the acceptance work is to make room for that pain and to accept that this is how your partner reacts. This is their emotional experience, and there's nothing that I can do to change that. Now, this is negative, right? But this is also important to moving forward. Stop trying to change your partner and learn to accept your partner's emotional experiences. The next process is contact with the present moment. Now, this is one of my favorite ones because a lot of people don't have much experience with mindfulness. And so to facilitate this with a couple, what I like to do is have them both have a cup of water filled halfway. And then I lead them in this cup of water exercise of mindfully drinking the water. Now, there's some instructions that you can find to do this, but it's basically just having them hold the cup of water and walking them through the different sensations that they have. As they hold it, as they put it up to their lips, and then when they drink it but not swallow, and then having them swallow it. And just kind of walking through that experience together as a couple. It can help illustrate what it's like to mindfully do their activities, to slow it down. The next process is self as context. This is where we're going to help them to shift perspective from being entangled with thoughts to observing thoughts. This helps the partners to see themselves and each other more clearly, beyond their immediate reactions and judgments. Now, you don't really have to do an exercise to explain this. You can do this through a metaphor, like the chessboard metaphor, that they are the chessboard and the thoughts and feelings are like the chess pieces that move, but they are the one having the experience. Or some like the metaphor of your emotions are like the sky, and it has room to have all the weather and all that. But what I like to do is to capture it live in session. And so I'll have them notice that thought. And I'll just stop them and say, hey, I just want to stop you there. This is what I wrote down. You said this about your partner. Did you notice that thought as you were having that? Is that a common thought that you have? And helping them to get some separation from that thought, but also to kind of have that self as context, to start being aware of their thinking and feeling. The next process of values is where we're going to assist the couples in identifying what truly matters to them in their relationship. Now, this is where we want to help them identify not only their personal values, because these are also leading to some of the conflicts and also giving them some hope for resolving those conflicts, but we also want to talk about those shared values. And this can be done through a shared value card sort exercise. So this is something you can send home with them as an exercise. This will be something you can download in the description below. This can help foster a deeper connection with one another as they understand what they mutually want out of the relationship and what they want to build towards. The last process is committed action. This is where we're going to encourage couples to take meaningful actions based on their values, even when it's difficult, even despite the schema pain that's going on. Now, this might involve setting small, achievable goals that align with their shared values and then working towards them together. And when it comes to committed action, the therapist is kind of taking on a coaching role of always bringing to mind, what are you going to do based on the information that you've shared? Based on our conversation today, what do you think is right for that next step? And then holding them accountable the next time that they come in and seeing that progress as they move towards those values. By focusing on these processes, therapists can help couples navigate their unique challenges with greater flexibility and resilience. As stated in Acceptance and Commitment Therapy for Couples, this process-based approach empowers couples to build more fulfilling and adaptable relationships, regardless of the specific issues that they face. Thank you for joining me in this series. It's been a really great experience talking about ACT for couples. I hope that these insights and techniques have been valuable for your practice and for your life. If you found this series helpful, please like and subscribe. Share the content with those that you think it would be valuable to. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Remember, your journey towards a more purposeful and mindful life begins with a single click.